Hello parents, I'm Mrs. Botten and this is your back to school night presentation. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this and I would much prefer you be in person. So we'll see how this goes. I am the myth and folk teacher for your student and I'm going to show you a little bit about what they're doing on Zoom with us in the classroom. So I am going to share my screen and see if this works. So here's the presentation for tonight. When we log into Zoom on whatever day it is that we're meeting, students will first see a slide that looks like this. The date, it's myth and folk, it'll say the period that it is, and me. The next slide on any day that we meet looks like this. This is my Bitmoji Classroom, and it took me longer than I care to admit to create, but I wanted something for the students to be able to look at that was consistent every time we met. If they were physically in the classroom, they would be looking at the whiteboard for our agendas and for the homework and for any reminders. So this is our virtual classroom hub, and I want to show you some of the features that are available to the students in our Bitmoji Classroom. The first one is the date. If we click on the date, it takes them to some weird holidays from around the world. So for today in the United States, it is American Chess Day. So anybody who really likes chess, this would be the day for them. Also, since it's September 1st, there's this whole list of what's celebrated throughout the month, or the awareness situations throughout the month. Better Breakfast Month, so go ahead and make sure your kids are eating a good breakfast. National Chicken Month, eat lots of chicken, etc., etc. So every day we take a look at what the weird day is. Other things that are in the classroom are posters that students can click on for different kinds of information. So if they click on the Braver poster, every week there is a new wellness post. Some weeks it might be a post on podcasts they can listen to. Another week it was a link to a YouTube video about wellness. There's a lot of different articles that I'll post here. So for example, this was from the first week of school. I posted this article about how Spotify has daily wellness podcasts and music. So this is a link that changes every week, a different wellness activity or wellness article. If they click on the Stronger poster, it takes them to the Saugus webpage. No, don't show again. Like that. If they click on this poster, the Student Counseling Services, it takes them to a document put together from our school counselors about different kinds of counseling services that they have access to while we are virtual, including our virtual Serenity space. And I'll show you another place where I have that. If they click here, it takes them to YouTube for last week's SNN show. You are welcome to click on that too. So you're welcome to watch that as well, since this will be available to you. Padlet is a place where they can go for writing resources. It takes them all through the writing process. So if they struggle with introductions, for example, they would go here and click on that and get some resources about how to write introductions. The Tools and Resources link takes them to my Google Sites page, where they can click on a variety of different pages. So I have a wellness and counseling page, which gives them information about wellness activities if they are struggling. Student tech resources, if they're having some problems with technology or understanding how to use some of the technology, these are some videos on how to access a lot of that. Obviously our schedule, which seems to be changing all the time, but this is the most recent schedule that we have frequently used class documents. If they don't remember where in Google Classroom some of these documents were, they can just easily come here to find them. And then of course the syllabus, which I'm hoping they showed to you because there was a form that parents and students were supposed to complete on Google Forms. This will take them to Google Classroom. The turnitin.com button is where they're going to be submitting essays. And this book here is where they will access the readings from our book, The Mythic Journey. This is not a book that they picked up at registration. It's something that we're working through together. Let's see. The newspapers here will take them to the Saugus Scroll website, which is not up and running yet. We're still working on that. If they were to click on me, it takes them to my YouTube channel. Not a whole lot there right now. If they click on the mug, it takes them to my Instagram page, which is school appropriate, and I encourage them to follow to help build those relationships. So that's the Bitmoji Classroom. And I'm kind of working out of order here, but this is what it would look like for students. So if you click on here about the teacher, I am not going to go through this whole presentation with you. This is for you if you are interested, but I will say that I am a Saugus High School grad, and I've been here now for 17 years as a teacher. This is my 17th year, and there is nowhere else that I would rather be. This is a phenomenal school, and I am absolutely committed to making sure that your kids have the best experience that they can, because I know the last 10 months have been challenging to say the least for everyone, and we're going to make the most that we can in this virtual environment. So about the class, what I included here in this link is the opening lecture that we discussed. I think it was the second day of school, and I kept this here so you can read through it if you wish to see kind of what the class is all about. And essentially what I tell them is, you are not special, you are human, and there is something comforting about the fact that you're not special, you're human, that no matter what you're going through, what emotions you're feeling, you are not the first and only person to ever experience those things. And there's a comfort knowing that you're not the only person to struggle, and other people have felt the same way and they've made it through. And I think that's really important to keep hammering home this year, especially after everything that's happened. We all need to remember that we're not alone. More about the class. I don't teach it in a way where we're looking at different cultures chronologically. So we're not looking at, here's all the myths from Greece, and here's all the myths from Rome, and here's all the myths from India. Instead, it follows a human lifespan. So our first unit that we've been looking at are creation stories from different cultures. And actually, students completed their first group project this week. They gave their presentations on Monday and Tuesday, and I was really, really happy with how they turned out, considering the situation that we're in. They were able to effectively collaborate together and create a project and present it to their classmates in a virtual environment. So that actually worked surprisingly really well. After our creation story unit, we're going to be looking at family relationships, and each unit after that is looking at a different rite of passage that every human being goes through. So we'll talk about love and relationships, we'll talk about position and power, we'll talk about finding your purpose. The last unit is on legacy and what comes next, and how as mortal human beings we deal with our own mortality and how we struggle with that, and how other cultures have struggled with that. So that's this year it's going to be a difficult but really important unit that we'll look at together. So I talked to you about the Bitmoji Classroom, and I'm trying to make this quick because I know you have a bunch of other presentations to take a look at. I want to show you Google Classroom and how that is set up. If you were to go into your student's Google Classroom, which you should because you're watching this now, you start with the stream. The stream is where I post important information. So their daily links to the class I post in the stream. I'm always going to keep this here, our bell schedule, because sometimes that will change. Under classwork, this is how I organize it. The first section in classwork will be our weekly agenda slides, and that is exactly what you're looking at now and what I'm sharing with you. So if a student is absent during a day, say they were absent week 3, they would go here, they'd click on the slides, and say they couldn't log in on August 24th, they would go here and it tells them exactly what we did in class and what the homework was. So everything is available for them there. After that will be the current unit that we're working in. So the unit that we just finished up is creation myths, and all the work will be here. And then the first unit was the class introduction. These are organized by when it was assigned. So for example, these assignments here were assigned first. These are the most recent. So if students have something missing, they would go into Google Classroom here. And that is Google Classroom. Contacting me, if I go back here, the last, did I put it here? No, I didn't put it there. My apologies. I put it here. If you need to contact me with any questions, email is a really great way to do so. I'm really good about checking email. I do say that you might not get a response after 3 o'clock because I try to not work outside of those hours, but I have not been successful in that yet. I am always checking email, so email will always get a response. Students can use the Remind app. They should already be signed up for it. Some of my students are not, so it's my task this week to go through and see who has not signed up for that yet. But I use Remind to send out text messages to remind students of things that are coming up or important information or a change in schedule. So this is actually a really important tool. And students have been actually using Remind during class. If they get kicked out of Zoom for some reason, they go ahead and text me on Remind and let me know. It's a really quick and easy way to communicate. Google Classroom, students can use Google Classroom to write private comments on any of the assignments that are there. So if they have a question on a particular assignment, it's a really easy way for me to see that question for that particular assignment. And I wanted to share with you some tips and requests that I have for students, because I would really appreciate if you reiterated these at home. Number one, make sure that they're fully and appropriately dressed. Luckily, we haven't had a whole lot of problems with this, and this is very strange that I even have to say this. This is a new rule that I've never had to have, but there are some people who, some gentlemen who maybe don't have a shirt on during class. They need to make sure that they have a shirt on. Number two, make sure there's nothing embarrassing or inappropriate within view of your camera. This hasn't been an issue as of yet, but we just want to make sure that students are very much aware of what is around them within view of the camera. And likewise, there are some times where we have to screen share during presentations. So I do tell the students, make sure there's nothing on your computer screen or a tab that's open that you wouldn't want other people knowing about. I do ask that they refrain from eating and exercising during class, because it is distracting, to say the least, when I see 36 boxes of students and some of them are eating or some of them are exercising on a treadmill. It's really distracting, so we do ask that they refrain from that. Another very strange rule that I've never had to have before was to make sure that they're sitting up. There are some students who are laying on their beds or laying down on the floor. We want to make sure that they are alert and sitting up for class, and that they, number 5 here, that they're treating our virtual time together as if we were in the classroom. So that means Their cameras have to be on, their faces need to be in the camera. I tease them because a lot of them are just showing me their foreheads. Some of them are in shadow, so it looks like they're in the witness protection program, but we want to make sure that their faces are visible. It's hard enough as it is to learn about students, to form those relationships through this kind of a format. So if their faces are constantly on camera, that makes it a lot easier. And we've actually been requested to mark students absent if their faces are not on camera for the whole time. And I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So here's some reminders. They should be using a desktop or a laptop for live classes because sometimes phones and tablets don't give them the kind of accessibility that they're going to need. They should always be using their school Google account to access anything for school. They need to make sure they're using the Chrome browser or things just aren't going to work well for them. And number 4, I told this to the students too, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, is to be patient and understanding with teachers, peers, and yourselves. And by yourselves, I mean you parents. I know this is not easy for parents either, that we're all kind of navigating a new world here. And this is a new adventure for everyone. So let's maintain a positive and helpful attitude and look out for one another. And what I tell my students all the time, please maintain a strong sense of humor, because we're not going to survive without a sense of humor. So I'm going to go back to Bitmoji Classroom. So that's how you would contact me if you need. Your homework as parents: hug your kids, tell them you love them, tell them you're proud of them, and I also would love for you to engage in some self-care. As the saying goes, you cannot fill other people's cups if yours is empty. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves as well as your families. And then reminders here: be patient with your kids, their teachers, and yourselves. This is a really strange time that we're going through, but know that you have support. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me and let me know. And with that, I love your kids. I'm having a great time with them so far, and I sincerely cannot wait to have them back in class. And if I can figure out how to stop sharing, I will stop sharing, and have a beautiful night. Mwah!